Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and for today's cards I am participating in a blog hop to celebrate Heffy Doodle's October release, which I think is their biggest release to date. They released a ton of products. I'm only focusing on a few for today's card. I have this new Dino Time stamp set that is absolutely adorable. I don't know. I said it in my blog post, but I have a soft spot for dinosaur images. I don't know what it is. Even before I had my youngest little munchkin, after having all these girls, I've always had a thing for dinosaurs. I don't know. They're cute. So I used all the images in the set, all the dinosaur images, and I stamped them onto distress watercolor paper with VersaFine ONYX black ink, and I used my anti-static powder tool first just to prevent the embossing powder from sticking to anything other than the stamped images. And then I coated them with clear embossing powder. This step isn't necessary. I just like doing it because one, it gives it that raised clear like shine to the black stamped image, and two, it makes watercoloring easier because you have that raised edge, so you don't have to worry too much about things kind of bleeding into each other, and you can move a little faster. So it has its benefits. So for the watercoloring, I kept it really simple. I just pulled out my Arteza Real Brush pens, and I am literally just scrolling down color and then moving it around with my water brush. And it's kind of off camera, but I have a piece of paper towel and I'm just wiping my water brush between the colors so that I'm not really like muddying them up. But again, simple, super simple. I didn't even have a color combo in my head. I just picked colors that I thought would look cute on these dinosaurs because I knew the idea for the cards themselves were going to be fairly neutral, so I could use pretty much whatever colors I wanted for the dinosaurs. So I was just grabbing colors at random. I was like, oh, this one will look cute in blue, this one will look cute in gray, this one will look cute in green, ooh, this one will look cute lime green. So I just went along, would scribble the color on with the marker and then move it around and pull it out with my water brush. And this is the Tim Holtz detail water brush that I use pretty much, and well, anytime I'm using a water brush, this is the one I use. I literally have been using this exact same one for years. It is stained. It doesn't look very pretty, but it's worked so well for me for so many years that even though I've got a backup now of this water brush, just in case I manage to lose this one, I still use this one all the time. So, but like I said, did random colors on all these, and then off camera I ended up actually, because there's space like on this piece of paper, I ended up stamping the little pterodactyl another time and watercoloring it with one of the just random gray markers so that both my cards will have him flying on it, because I just thought it was really cute. So once they're dry at this point. So once they're dry, I use the coordinating dies so I can run these through my die cut machine and die cut them all in one pass. And then I put some heavyweight white cardstock into just my stamp platform again. And there's these solid images for palm trees in the same Dino Time stamp set. So I just lined those up and I am inking up the trunks of the trees with Simon Says Stamps khaki ink. And then the leafy areas I am inking up with willow ink and stamping them each a couple times because dye inks on new stamps, they like to pool a little bit. Plus I wasn't stamping them perfectly, as well as it kind of intensifies the ink. And then as the ink dries, it smooths out and evens out a lot more. So I flipped that cardstock around and stamped everything a second time because I decided during this whole process that I would make 2 cards with all these images. So I also die cut from the scraps of the cardstock. I used the new Stitched Stones wafer dies. So I just die cut them from the scraps from what was left over from die cutting and stamping those little palm trees. And then I am just inking up these stones with that same khaki ink and just using an ink blending tool and not worrying too much about keeping the inking perfect because one, they're stones, and two, like I said, these dye inks, they do kind of smooth out a bit as they dry, but I didn't want it to be a perfect blend. You know, stones have texture. So I inked up a few of them with that khaki ink, and then I also pulled out smoke ink, just a nice gray ink. So just kind of ink that up just so I've got, you know, some different colors going on here. And then once I have those inked up, I decided to use the new STONEY MALONEY stencil. I like the names people come up with sometimes. I'm going to use that stencil on the actual card base, and the card base is the same cardstock. It is heavyweight. Simon Says Stamps heavyweight 120-pound white cardstock. And I decided I only wanted the stencil like on the bottom portion of the card. So I used Heffy Doodle's little memo tape dispenser and use that to kind of mask off the lower portion of the card front. And then I just taped the stencil into place with some washi tape. And for one of the cards, I am going to sponge the smoke ink onto this stencil just to give it that kind of gray stone look. And then on my second card, I'm going to use that khaki one again. So just a way to, even though I'm doing kind of the same thing on both cards, it mixes it up just a little bit. So I did the exact same thing. I just used that same piece of memo tape, masked off that portion of the card, put the stencil right back, and then sponged the khaki ink over it. And this memo tape, it's very similar to, you know, Post-it tape. Like, it has the sticky across the whole piece. So these would work really good to do like masking and whatnot, like stamping your images on the memo tape and like trimming it out. I didn't do any of that on these cards, but I'm going to keep this like on my desk to use for future cards. I like that it's blue. I think it's cute. Anyway, back to the card. So for the sentiments, I'm using sentiments from the Dino Time set. The long, narrow ones are from the Dino Time set. The small sentiments are from the new What You Sayin' Now stamp set. And I stamped all of those onto this scrap of black cardstock with Simon's clear embossing ink and then just white heat embossed them all. And the narrow sentiments I die cut with Simon's sentiment label wafer dies. And then the smaller sentiments I die cut with their little coordinating What You Sayin' Now speech bubble dies. I thought those would be really cute just to kind of add some extra words to my cards. So I've got everything die cut, everything's ready to go. So now it's just a matter of adhering them to my card bases. So I'm using a combination of Studio Claudia liquid glue as well as little 3D foam squares to create my little scenes. So some things are going to be popped up, some are going to be adhered to the card base. It just gives it that little bit of extra dimension and whatnot. So I'm going to pop my little dinosaurs on with the foam tape. A couple of the rocks will be up with foam tape, and then everything else is just adhered flat to the card base with this liquid adhesive. So I did the exact same thing with both cards. I just switched which side I was adhering everything to. And then there's, you know, a couple different dinosaurs used. But it's a kind of, like I said, it's a fun way to get more than one card, and yet they're not exactly the same. So after I got everything adhered, I'm going to adhere the long sentiment right below my little cluster of images here. And then I'm just going to flip over the card front and trim off that excess with my scissors. And once I've got that done, I have extra dinosaurs from all of the ones I had stamped and colored, and I'm going to adhere one onto the inside of each card along with another little speech bubble that I had white heat embossed a sentiment to. So that finishes the inside of the card. And then the final little bit of embellishment, I couldn't resist adding just a little bit of bling, not too crazy, but I pulled out these Studio Claudia, the red hearts crystals that I've been obsessed with every time I pull them out, as well as the July crystals, just to add a few little regular shapes and a little bit more red, just to kind of pull it out. I just thought it would be cute, especially with this one where it says you make my heart soar. So I added those little hearts just to give it that little extra something without going too crazy. And once that was done, I did the exact same thing to the second card, which I'm going to show right here. And that finished off my cards. So as always, I'll have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have links to the supplies used. Like I said, this is part of a blog hop, so I will have links to everyone in my blog post, which is linked directly below the video. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.